How you doing? This is Jeff with the Valhalla Ventures, reguideservice.com, reiguideservice.com. As you can see, you probably hear, I'm outside. I'm going to try to talk in between the gusts of wind. It's pretty nice out today at the apocalyptic bug out secret location that I'm currently at. I'm in my backyard. It's just what my backyard looks like. So wanted to talk about rent, landlord, gust of wind. So I want to talk about the rent landlord situation and talk about what you can do if you are a renter or if you're a landlord. I think this will go back to what I've said in about every other video I've done, where I've said the most important thing is communication, to be honest. So I think the right thing to do is, if you have contacted your mortgage and your mortgage gives you some sort of reduction or whatever and payment, that you pass that along to your tenants if you can. If there's some sort of benefit that you get as the landlord, I think that benefit should be trickled down. Now, of course, I get it. A lot of people think that landlords are rich or have a lot of money, and that is the case. There are some landlords that are very, very wealthy, but there's some landlords that own properties because they didn't buy it the way they should have bought it, or didn't do something the way they should have done it, and they're now stuck with the property because they have to rent it in order to make the mortgage payment, because they can't sell it because they didn't have enough equity in it to be able to cover all the expenses of selling. Selling a property is not free. It actually costs you a lot of money. There's closing costs and realtors fees and taxes. There's a lot of stuff that has to be paid to sell a property. So sometimes people just can't afford to sell the property, and so that's why they turn it into a rental property. So I think there's a lot of factors, and communicating is important. Making assumptions is never the way to do good business. And look, this is the time where we build relationships and prove that we're a good person to want to do business with, and that's always good. It's always good to want to do good business. So if you're a renter and you were laid off and you don't have the money to pay rent, I'm a little concerned with a renter that isn't able to pay rent whenever it's, most people have only been laid off for a couple of weeks. And I understand you want to save your money, you don't know how long it's going to be and all that, but being able to pay at least some portion, you should be able to pay half, right? Because you worked for 2 weeks out of the month. It was 2 weeks you didn't work. So I don't know what everybody's situation is, obviously, but if you are able to pay some portion, you're obligated and you need to. The courts are closed, so you won't be able to be evicted right away, but you can be evicted, and you can cause a lot of financial stress and strain, which might ultimately wind up making it so that the property gets foreclosed on. So then nobody wins, because you'll be evicted at that point anyway. I just think that if you go off the assumption that your landlord is rich, or you're the landlord and you are going off the assumption that your tenant is irresponsible and hoarding, like if you just go across the board with assumptions, then you're not going to be really that great at business. And it obviously depends on how many properties you have. You can't, if you're a landlord, you can't be expected to call 100 tenants and make that clear to them, that or work something out with them individually. So it's all very complicated, which is why I've tried to do this video a couple of different times and just couldn't really think of a good way to fully encompass it for everybody, because there's commercial landlords for your business, like the Cheesecake Factory said they're not going to be paying their rent, which is just a trashy way to do business, in my opinion. To just not only not pay rent, but to announce that you're not going to pay rent. As a company of that size, it's trashy. Especially how quickly they did it. Like, they didn't have any money in reserves, none. And that's, as people that are landlords, we should keep in mind that if these big corporations like the Cheesecake Factory and these others aren't responsible, they should go out of business or suffer the consequences or whatever. But in all likelihood, they do have an amazing amount of cash reserves, and they're just trying to save it for themselves as CEOs and big wigs. They don't want to. There's some companies that are letting part of their salary, or the CEOs are letting part of their salaries go in order to pay the staff. Don't mind the rooster back there. It's a very complicated situation, and I think that we all just need to have an honest conversation with ourselves first as to what we can do to help others that may, be in a bad situation without making assumptions about their situation. If you assume that your landlord is rich and that they can afford to not take this payment. I mean, look, if they don't have a mortgage and it's completely paid off, you might have someone that is retired from the school district, or retired just with Social Security retirement, and that's it. But they have a couple of rental properties that are paid off, and so that's what they live on. That's what they pay their bills with. That's what they pay their food, their insurance, their medications. That's what they pay for their stuff with. And even when you own a house, you don't own a house. I mean, let's just be honest. There's nobody that's not going to have to pay taxes and insurance. And everybody's screaming about their mortgage. They don't want to have to pay their mortgage. They don't want to have to pay their mortgage. I mean, realistically, taxes and insurance, depending on where you live, could be almost as much as what your house note is every month. So they're really only talking about, even if they forgive a mortgage, and if they're not forgiving taxes and insurance, then you still got taxes and insurance that you're going to have to pay as the owner of a property. So it's not as if, even if the mortgage is forgiven, that the landlord or property owner doesn't have to pay anything. So they're still going to have to pay taxes and insurance. There's still going to be deferred maintenance. I mean, especially if you live in a property that has management and maintenance and all that, like that, you want those people to keep their jobs, right? You want them to be able to keep feeding their families, and making sure that, not only that, but making sure that you can actually have water and electricity and air conditioning and all the stuff you need, because that's what those maintenance people do. They make sure that your property is staying in a good condition. And it's an agreement, not only is it a contractual agreement, but it should be a humanitarian agreement from every position. And to think that the landlord has something better on the tenant is wrong, and to think the tenant has something better on the landlord is wrong. We just need to really figure out individually the best way we can how to resolve this so that we all win, because at some point this is going to be over. We want to be able to sleep at night. We want to not have to worry about the Yelp reviews. We want to not have to worry about our credit. None of us want to be worse off after this. And I think that if we can talk about it, landlords, if you can't help them, but they can't pay it, you still have to work something out, because something's going to have to happen. So, I mean, there's no point in getting upset about it. Tenants, there's no point in getting upset about it. You still owe at some point because you've been there. So just sit down and work it out. Figure out the best way. Maybe starting, in a couple of months when things are back to normal again, you add $100 a month to your rent until you get all caught up, and you extend the lease, or you add a couple $100 depending on what it's owed. I mean, there's ways that this can be resolved. And if you have a specific problem, if you have a larger property, or if you have a special situation, commercial property, you can contact me, thevalhallaventures.com. All my contact information is on there. ReiguiService.com, ReiguiDeservice.com. But look, get with the person that you need to get with, whether you're the tenant or the landlord. Today is the 2nd, so if you haven't had a conversation yet, then you should have already had that conversation. I should have already had this conversation and give you this advice in advance, because advance would have been way better. You know, if you had any inclination, personally, I would have called all up my tenants and said, you know, a week before, and said, hey, look, this is the upcoming thing that's happening. I don't want you to have to, you know, stress if this is going to be an issue. Let's talk about it, so you don't have a week of trying to figure it out and jumping through hurdles if you don't even know what those hurdles are. Let's work something out. But now, if you're in a situation where you're a tenant or a landlord and you're concerned about what's going to happen, where you're going to be, where things are going to go, I think you should make a plan. I think that plan should extend not only for this month, but next month. Let's just be realistic. Things are going to be shut down in pretty much the same way that they've been shut down. And then just make a plan for the next couple of months and see what you can do as a landlord and as a tenant to come up with a plan so that maybe you can find the best win-win situation. There's a cat over here trying to visit with me now. Try to find yourself the best win-win situation so that everybody is able to do as much as possible to benefit. And let's not try to judge people or be too concerned about that kind of stuff. Let's just focus primarily on getting things done, so that when we get back to normal, it's just jump right into it. There's no weird vibes. Nobody's having to run to court and sue people and do evictions. No, we don't need that. We all have enough stress. We all have enough stuff going on. Figure out a way to work it out. If you do get a stimulus check, you know, it's not a whole lot of money, you know, but use it to pay part of your rent. If you're not getting that, you know, let your landlord know, I'm not getting that. So I hope that helps. I know it's kind of random and just all over the place, but it's really hard to put it all together when you're talking about such a wide swath of possibilities. I mean, I'm not really into making 30-minute videos on things. I like to try to keep it simple. And the reality is I could never cover everything that would need to be covered in order for you to just like take this and step by step go through it and call your tenant or call your landlord. Obviously, two different sides. I mean, you can be a long time. But anyway, it's getting windy again. I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you watching. ValhallaVentures.com, ReGuideService.com, ReiguideService.com. And give me a call. My phone number's on there. My email is on there. And I'd be happy to talk to you about your specific situation if there's something I can help you with. I just touched my face. I'm not supposed to be doing that, but I'm in my zombie apocalypse safe space, so we'll be all right. All right, good luck. Y'all be careful out there. Wash your hands, all that bullshit. Don't touch people. Stay somewhere. I don't know, that stuff.